everyone. I'm ready to get started. This is the 7 steps to deep spiritual healing and discovering your soul's unique purpose. Uh, and we're going to go ahead and start now. I'll start with some tips uh, for the class. So you are in the right place if you are in the throes of a spiritual awakening and are struggling to figure out how to heal yourself. That's where I was. That's where I started. I didn't begin my spiritual healing process or figuring out why I was psychic or anything else for any other reason, but I was in pain. So I will talk about that today uh, a little bit so that you can understand that. Um, or if you have been on your spiritual path a while and are seeking more depth and direction. I get a lot of students that come to me for this. They've been on their path for a little while. Taking an intuitive class is not new for them, but they're wanting to go deeper. So if that's you, you're in the right place. Or if you're ready to discover and live your soul's higher calling. Not everyone's ready for that, but when they are, it is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing. Or if you are already an intuitive coach, counselor, or healer that feels something is missing from your work and you want to go deeper with your clients. And I will IE that by saying, and yourself. So we can't go deeper with our clients unless we're willing to go deeper with ourselves. So my name is Lori Camacho. If you have not met me before, I am a trance channel to a being named Reina. And I started as a clairvoyant and a healer, and then grew into my channeling after that. Okay, let's go ahead. This class is not for you if you are not interested in your spiritual growth and healing. And some people aren't yet. That's okay. I understand that. If you're not ready for that, then this probably isn't the right webinar for you. Or if you're not ready to take personal responsibility for your reality, meaning we create our reality and we have to be willing to look at ourselves first. Or if you're not willing to consider investing in changing your life, if you want everything to just come to you and you don't want to have to work for it or do anything for it, then this probably isn't the right webinar for you either. Okay, moving on. My promise to you is I'll deliver as much value as humanly possible in this 90-minute presentation. We may even go over 90 minutes. Sometimes I'll go 2 hours. I will try to keep it within the 90-minute range if I can. Nothing I teach today is based on theory, and everything you learn today has been tested and proven to work. I've been teaching spirituality for over 13 years. So that's what I mean by that. So I taught a program in person for 13 years, which I will talk about today. And I've taught hundreds of people to, deepen their spiritual growth process, and also intuitive classes. I've taught channeling, I've taught mediumship, and I've taught healing. So in return, I ask that you keep an open mind about the new information you're learning today, and that you treat me and other attendees with respect, and that you take plenty of notes so you can begin to implement what you learned today. I will be teaching you something very valuable today. It would be a good idea to take notes. Tips for watching the class: get in a quiet room, turn off your phone so you can devote your full attention to the training. You work hard, and I want you to treat yourself to 90 minutes of focused learning. Close your tabs in any apps to expand your bandwidth. Sometimes having other apps open will make the presentation go in and out, so that's also a good idea. During this class, you'll learn 3 of the biggest mistakes to avoid on your spiritual learning path. I know because I've made all of them. Reina's 7-step pathway to deep spiritual healing, discovering, and then living your soul's higher calling. So I will go through those 7 steps a little bit later on. Now I'm going to talk about me just a little bit. I don't want to spend too much time on myself, but I think it's important for you to know why you should even listen to me. So why am I qualified to help you create a more in-depth spiritual foundation? I have been in the spiritual business for over 16 years. I started doing readings when I was 26 years old. That's how I began, as a clairvoyant, and then I became a healer by the time I was 30. So about, in between that 4-year period, I became a healer. And then I became a trance vocal channel and spiritual teacher, which was the biggest shock of my life. So I had no idea that that was going to be my path in life. Spirit really brought it to me. I also own two successful metaphysical bookstores in Southern California, Orange County. One of them is called Awakenings. The other one is Visions and Dreams. My husband and I own these two beautiful stores. We get to be pillars of light in our community with these stores. I've also trained hundreds of other intuitives, healers, and channels for over 13 years. I mentioned that earlier. It has been a wonderful, wonderful career in that way, to be able to help other people step on their path. So I don't even know how many people. I know it's in the hundreds. That's all I can say, but I've done it. You know, there's times I taught class 5 days a week. Now I do it about once a month. And then I also provide this program online. I also live the teachings daily in my own life, and that is a really big one. If you seek out a spiritual teacher, they really should be living their life spiritually. So everything that I tell you today is something that I've done myself and something that I continue to do. So I don't just I didn't just do it a long time ago and, oh, okay, I'm healed. If this is something I regularly do in my life, and every day I'm going in, working with certain meditations. I even work with Raina myself, so I don't just channel her, but I will go back and listen to a lot of her information, her meditations, and implement them in my own life. How I awakened as a clairvoyant healer and channel. I put up these pictures just so that if you've not ever seen channeling before, you can kind of start to understand. In the first picture, I'm talking to a client there. I'm just, doing a reading for her with my eyes open. That's something that happens in a little bit more of a light trance state for me, and I'm fully awake. When I'm in trance, that's the picture that you see there to the right, and my eyes are closed. So when I go into trance with Raina, I close my eyes, that smile comes up on my face, and she comes through and speaks. So those are the two different ways that I work, and I teach in trance like that. So how I awakened as a clairvoyant first was really spirit came to me, and I had somewhat of an abusive childhood. My mother had epilepsy, and she also just could not handle her emotions. So I had to know what was happening with her on a daily basis to kind of keep her happy, and also keep my sister and I safe in a way. So I love my mom, and she did the best that she could, but she was very abusive. And it was a huge learning lesson for me in my life too, about pain. So I was born to this woman that just was in a lot of pain, and she couldn't have been a better teacher than she was. She really was a wonderful teacher for me in that way. So when it was time for me to awaken, I was actually 9 when I really first awakened to my clairvoyance. And my father was also murdered. So when that happened, he showed up in my bedroom. I saw him very clearly, and he didn't live with us. So I screamed because I didn't know what was going on. So I screamed. She came through. She actually walked through my father and then flipped the light on. And so I knew at that point that he was a spirit. And never again could an adult tell me that spirit wasn't real. So that was a huge, huge moment for me. So then I kind of went through my life. I shut it down like a lot of people do. I just wanted to be normal, and I didn't want anyone to think that I was weird. So I saw things all the time. I sensed adults' emotions, but I just kind of pushed it out of the way. Then when I was about 23, I started to really awaken again. And as that happened, I kind of got scared, to be honest. Spirit was coming into my apartment. I would see things even during the day, and I wondered, am I schizophrenic? Is there something mental going on with me? Because I had been taught, like a lot of people are, that spirit isn't real. So instead of seeking out, I didn't want to go to a psychologist because I didn't want to be diagnosed with something. I felt like that wasn't exactly what was going on with me. So I sought out help from a medium, and really she taught me to meditate and just clear my chakras initially, which still to this day is one of the best tools ever. If I'm in a bind, or I just need to kind of ground myself, doing a chakra clearing, even if you never do anything else, is hugely helpful. So that's what happened with her, and I just kind of went from there. I started reading books. I got a little agoraphobic too. I stayed in my apartment for a whole entire year, but all I could do was devour all these books and teachings, and I wanted to know, well, who is Buddha and who is Jesus and who are all these different teachers that we kind of hear about growing up. Also, I was also raised in a Christian church, but I knew that that wasn't exactly what my path was. I appreciate my upbringing that way, but it just wasn't exactly right for me. And I would hear my higher self and talk to me when I was in church. So, and that was kind of my favorite part of church, was getting my own information that way. So anyway, that's a little bit about how I awakened. I naturally grew from a clairvoyant into a healer. I very much, sight is one of my gifts. So I could see, into people's pain and also into the body. So that was kind of a next natural step for me. And then my channeling happened right around 30 years old. So, uh, and that's a big one for me because I didn't really know what it was. And I would wake up in the middle of the night channeling. So Raina would come through me. There were some other beings that would come through me. At first, that was scary until I realized what was happening. And I very quickly got training from a teacher. So her name is Sean Randall. She lives in Los Angeles, and I really needed to be guided with that. So I ended up taking that class, and I've had other teachers as well on my path. So I don't want any of you to think that anyone is just natural at something and they don't need training. Everyone does, and that's part of our training today that I will talk about. So that's a little bit about me and how I became a clairvoyant healer, and ultimately channeling is really my path. So I, go into trance with Raina and teach that way. We've done many different workshops, and we're actually working on a book together now. Why does a spiritual awakening happen? So now I'll go into some of the training. Because a person needs to heal themselves first and foremost, even if they don't think they need to heal themselves. And again, because I've been in this business for 16 years, and I own those stores, and I've taught many people to do it, I've seen this a lot. I've seen people come into class and they really think, sometimes they know they need to heal themselves, and they come in, oh my God, help me. I don't know what's going on. Other times they just don't think they need healing at all. And what I want to tell you is everyone needs healing, whether they know they need healing or not. And sometimes becoming interested in your spiritual path is your cue that you need healing. The other reason is it's your purpose to be a healer of some kind. I always say that my career path chose me. Spirit chose me. Never in a million years would I have said I'm going to be a healer, a clairvoyant, or a trance channel. It just wasn't how I was raised. It wasn't something that even crossed my mind. But when my healing started happening, Spirit began speaking to me about what my real path was in life. And what I thought I was going to be when I was younger, I thought I was going to be a makeup artist. That's what I wanted to be. I also had several friends that were in the acting business and modeling and things like that. And I saw my first psychic when I was 19, and she laughed at me. She said, "You can think that's what you're going to do, but that's not what you're here for." She said you're very psychic and your path is spirituality. I thought she was crazy. I really did. I just thought, okay, whatever. And I didn't see her again, and I didn't see many intuitives that way in my younger days. But I saw maybe 3 before my awakening happened, but every single one of them did tell me that. So a sudden crisis or trauma occurs, or an accumulation of past crises. Um, I also can fit into this category and relate to it. My father dying, the way that he did was absolutely a crisis that I internalized. But that crisis blew me open, and I saw my first spirit. I've also had other crises that are not nearly as traumatic as that one. But every time a trauma happens in your life, or anytime your psyche, your body recognizes information as trauma, it is an opportunity to open. Or if you've had the accumulation of crises and now your body can't hold it anymore, you're going to experience spirit. It's going to start to come up in you, and you might start having anxiety attacks. That's another thing that happened to me. Anxiety attacks, or dreams. You may have dreams, or you just may start to feel like something isn't right. So that's another way that awakening happens. You make a choice to awaken your higher self. So that's just you deciding, there's something about metaphysics that really calls me. There's something about spirit that really calls me. I choose to take a class on intuition. I choose to take a meditation class. I want to awaken. The moment you do that, you're going to awaken. And so sometimes it happens by choice, which I think is wonderful and beautiful. Spirit had to get to me another way because I wouldn't have chosen it. But for some of you, you may be choosing it, and props to you. To figure that out on your own is a wonderful, wonderful thing. Also, unexplained spiritual experiences begin. So, or a combination of all of the above. So, the unexplained spiritual experiences, I have a fun one. Before I channeled Raina, when I was in the throes of my spiritual awakening and I was getting all this information, I had a CD player in my apartment that would choose one CD, play it, and it was this meditation CD that I had called Fairy of the Woods. And it really, at the time, scared the crap out of me, to be honest. Um, and then at night, I would hear this female voice say my name. So that's some of the unexplained spiritual experiences that I had. I have so many other ones too, but that was a fun one. I even had my best friend come start spending the night in my apartment because I was scared. I didn't know what was going on. But they were just trying to get my attention, that's all. And sometimes electronics is an easy way for them to get to you. Okay, I wanted to ask all of you some questions. How many of you are new to metaphysics or spirituality? How many of you are undergoing a spiritual awakening? Any of these that you relate to? Has this awakening been uncomfortable or painful in any way? Or have you just become interested in spiritual growth? How many of you have taken how-to classes on intuitive development, healing, or another modality? If so, which ones? And have any of you taken a consciousness development or personal healing course of some kind? Which is what I've been talking about today. So go ahead and pop your answers into your comment box. At the end of the presentation, I'm going to look at some of your comments. Any questions that you have, and any answers to these questions at all, and I'll answer you a little more personally. So just pick one and go ahead and answer. Okay, so now I want to talk about some of the mistakes. Can you just learn how to and skip the healing? My simple answer to that is no, you can't. It's not a good idea. Sometimes you may start with an intuitive class because you are interested in that. I understand that. Will an intuitive development class be enough? Again, no. And how does healing bring about your purpose, spiritual or otherwise? The reason this is a mistake, and I can own up to this mistake myself, I began doing readings because I got told to by spirit, and before I really took any of the consciousness development classes. And I did get guided there, I think, because it was the only way that they were going to get me to do my own healing. But very quickly, when I was 26 years old and doing readings, I learned that, ooh, I need something a lot more than just my natural psychic ability that I have. I remember a woman coming in to a store that I was working at. She had cancer, and I heard it immediately. And I didn't want to talk to her about that at all. I was, nervous. I didn't even know if I was going to be correct, but spirit wouldn't let me get around it. And so I said, "Are you sick?" And she said, "Yes, I have cancer. And I want to know if I'm going to die." And I was not prepared for that at all. Me being naturally psychic did not prepare me for that moment one bit. She needed healing. She needed me to be able to really look into her and help guide her with her healing, whether or not she was going to make it or not. And that was a wake up call for me. It really was. I figured, okay, this is great when I'm seeing someone that just kind of wants to know what their life direction is. But when someone has something serious like that, I really didn't know what to do. And then also for myself, the more I did readings, the more my own healing came up. And I found that sometimes I would go into that healing, unbeknownst to me. And then again, I didn't know what to do. So sometimes after a whole day of readings, all I wanted to do was wrap myself in a blanket and not go anywhere, not do anything. And at that time, I still had to have a regular job. I didn't have that option. So I would do readings during the day, and then I would go and wait tables at night. So skipping the healing, no. If it's taken you a while to get to the healing, okay. But so, a person's ability, whatever their ability is, if it is something that you're wanting to do for a living, I realize not everyone does. Um, so I'm really talking to the people who want to do this for a living in some capacity. Eventually you're going to be brought to this place, and if you're not, your ability will really be limited, and your ability to help another person will be limited. So that's what you need to know about skipping the healing. Okay, mistake number 2, believing you are just a natural and not really thinking you need to take any classes. This is something that I came across with students at times. How a natural connection to spirit plays a role. It plays a role. If you didn't have your natural connection to spirit, you wouldn't get called by spirit. So that's kind of the first step. But is it enough? No, it's not. You need to, natural ability can also be very unwielding. And I'm a perfect example of that. My clairvoyance and my channeling, when it was not trained properly, was really a hazard in my life. Like I said, I woke up channeling in my sleep. That was a problem. So, yeah, it's not enough. And also how the ego can snow you into believing you already know everything. That's a huge one. And like I said, I've made all these mistakes. There's a part of me that did not think I needed to even learn how to do a simple meditation or chakra clearing because I was so psychic. I thought, uh, those sort of things are for people that aren't really naturally psychic. That's what my ego told me. And I couldn't have been any more wrong. My life was a disaster with my ability when I had no training. And it needed to be. It needed to be so that I could heal the deeper parts of myself and also learn how consciousness works. So when the ego snows you into believing you already know everything and you're just a natural intuitive, that can be not just disastrous for you, but it can be disastrous for the people that you're trying to help. So, and again, I've seen this owning the stores. I see a lot of people come in, and a lot of people think that oh, well, spirit talks to me. That's all I need. And then their ego does all these, tricks. And I'll give you an example. One of the examples is we get messages like emails and things at our store too from people that are kind of in this stage of their growth. And we'll get emails that say, huge emails about whatever their download was from their guide and how they have to help the whole entire world, and that we need to help them to do that. It doesn't work that way. So you may get a message from your guides, but you may also be getting a message from your ego and have no idea that that's what you're doing. So that's an example. Or thinking that they can do something that really is inappropriate. That's another one. Doing something that's inappropriate because, oh, well, my guides told me that this was something that I was supposed to do. You have to be practical also. So when you're moving through your spiritual growth, common sense does not get thrown out the window, but your ego will kind of try to tell you your common sense doesn't matter because you're so spiritual now. So those are some of the silly little things that can happen. Being a natural intuitive, again, or a natural channel, a natural healer, wonderful. But then get some training for it so that you really, really know how to help another person, and so that the healing starts with you first. Mistake number 3, if you meditate enough, you'll get all the answers. So lots of people know about the Buddha story. What a lot of people don't know is even Buddha had a spiritual teacher. I think he had several. So why meditating alone will take forever, and even then, you're not going to get all the answers. Again, it just isn't how it works. As in history, and as long as we've been on the earth, people receive teaching from a teacher. In India, a lot of those gurus, their teacher came to them. So there's a lot of those stories. Eventually, you will need a teacher. How a spiritual teacher or guide can help you reach enlightenment more elegantly. So my favorite Chinese proverb is, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. It could not be any more true than it is. Absolutely, that is what happens. When you're ready to really delve into your growth and to become with it, whatever it is that you're supposed to be, regardless of what your path is, spiritual teachers will start popping up all over the place. And you'll have to choose which one feels right for you. The reason the enlightenment happens more elegantly is the reason anything happens more elegantly. If you really like to dance, you really like ballet, going and taking a ballet class from a teacher who is trained in that craft is going to help you, attain your goal much faster. Spirituality is no different. So learning from someone who has been there, made mistakes, and also received teaching themselves is really, really important. And you can take the rest of your life to meditate and hope that, you get somewhere, or you can just work with a teacher and literally in 3 months, 6 months, a year, your entire life can change. When I finally took class, and I was afraid, by the way. I was afraid of people, kind of. I didn't want to go sit in a class. I didn't want to. My ego was getting in the way, basically. But when I did it, it was so wonderful. I went to class for channeling for about a year, and at the end of that year, my whole entire life was different. I needed teaching to reach my full potential. Okay, basic meditation is a tool, not a direction. Absolutely so. Meditation is going in here. But then you need to be able to navigate and direct yourself accordingly to the parts of yourself that need healing. So meditation itself is the avenue that we use to go in and work on ourselves, but then you need some direction, and that's something that a spiritual teacher can help you with. Okay, so Raina's 7-step pathway to lasting enlightenment, and what is consciousness development. So I'm going to go through the 7 steps that Raina and I put together, and a lot of these things are not things that you can't get anywhere else, I guess I will say, but this pathway is something that Reina developed with me in my own development process. So a lot of people will teach some of these things, but learning like from point A to point Z, having this pathway, what I figured out, and also what Reina taught me through my own channeling experience, is that we really start at a certain place. And then we have to go through these sort of series of things, regardless of whether you have access to those things or not. So this sort of 7 module pathway that was created, this is what I've been teaching for 13 years, by the way. And this pathway was created by us, and all the meditations and everything that I've done in Trance with Reina are unique to her. So what are part realities and why do we need to work with them? And these part realities are what consciousness development is about. The first thing to learn about is the ego and the higher self. The ego can represent itself as the higher self, and that is what can be problematic in the beginning of your growth, or if you've decided not to get any training at all. The ego will get in the way. It will represent itself as something that is higher. It can also assist the higher self. It can assist you by helping you to get to your higher self, but it won't really do that if you are not doing your own healing. So it's important to know and also to understand what the ego is, what the higher self really is. How do these two things work? Why do we need to learn about them? Knowing what these two things are is really vital to getting clear information, to helping another person, and to really knowing, really without a doubt, knowing that you're getting information from a higher source. Inner child is the next part of self that tends to come up to the surface. The ego will learn what the inner child's fears are and tend to bring them up and throw them in your face. So that's why it's important to work with the inner child. So inner child and adolescent, those two things go together. So I have 2 adolescents right now. I have a 15-year-old and a 13-year-old, and they are children still. They really are, but they are thinking they're adults. They're trying to be adults, right? We all did that. And both the inner child and the adolescent will try to kind of take over your reality. And if you've ever seen an adult act like a child, your inner child and your adolescent, your ego will grab those parts of yourself and grab those fears and stop you from really being able to create your reality and be able to create what you want. So those two things are really important and seem to be the next parts of self that come up for healing. So we tend to go back into old fears, oh my goodness, or we start thinking about things that happened when we were children, things that happened when we were an adolescent that maybe we've put far away, and all of a sudden we're thinking about them again. So those two things, or those three things, prepare you for what's next, which is shadow work. Shadow work is a huge subject. A lot of people have written about it. Reina takes you into shadow work, into the being that is the shadow, which is not talked about often. I only know one other person that talks about it. So a lot of people know shadow work to be, oh yeah, to accept the parts of yourself that you don't like. That's kind of the general consensus. Yes, that is true. That is a part of shadow work. But the shadow, and we've grown up with that, oh, look, your shadow's following you. You have a dark shadow and you have a light shadow, and yes, they follow you. That is a real concept. And they are a being that comes with you into your life because they need to. And Reina does a beautiful job of explaining what the shadow really is as a being, but to go work with it as the being that it is, and not just, oh, there's these things about myself I need to accept, is super powerful. It's also really imperative on the spiritual path to ground your metaphysics. Without shadow work, you will either have a tendency to lean towards the dark side or a tendency to lean towards the light side. A lot of spiritual people tend to lean towards the light side. Oh, I don't ever get angry. I don't uh, deal with any of those emotions. Uh, of course we do. We all do. But the working with the being directly is really powerful. I don't want to give too much away there, but it is definitely a life changing experience. And shadow work is the thing. And this is what I tell everyone in class. Shadow work is the thing that actually blends your spirit reality with your physical reality and creates lasting change. So if you're looking to open up your soul's purpose and calling and give it to me, shadow work will help you to do that tremendously. Now, soul and spirit work. Soul and spirit work can be similar to shadow work, but in a different way. Soul and spirit work, we really start getting into the workings of the soul. And these words are used interchangeably a lot, but they are different things. So the soul is kind of the feminine counterpart, the spirit is the masculine counterpart. That's a simple way to put it. But they work together. They don't work separately. You can't just have a soul or just have a spirit. They work together, and when they begin to work together is when people really start to see their healing and their wholeness start to come up and want attention. This is also sometimes why people quit metaphysics. So when your shadow and also your soul work start coming up, spirit starts to show itself within you. So often house hauntings, I've done a lot of house clearings too, and house hauntings, often the person has taken a step forward somehow to begin their spiritual process. And then all of a sudden they start experiencing spirit in their house. And 9 out of 10 times, it's not a ghost that is coming from another place. Sometimes it is, sometimes that's a part of it, but it really has to do with the person's inner workings, and they've usually done something for the first time like Reiki, an intuitive class, or they've had a traumatic event of some kind that has brought up this spirit in their house. So soul and spirit really teaches you about the spirits that come up within your soul that need healing, that need wholeness, and guides you through how to do that. Okay, past lives. I love this one. When I first opened, past lives they were coming to me left and right like crazy. And maybe some of you have also had that experience. Past lives they're necessary. We've lived them. Being raised in a Christian church, that was shocking to me when I started to see past lives, because I was taught that you don't have past lives, you only have this one, and you have to get it right, and you have to be nice, and you have to believe in God, and if you don't, then that's your last chance, and that's just not true. So past lives um are really, really wonderful, and past lives carry a lot of your purpose with them as well, a lot of the things that you have not healed. So if you've continued working through a pattern in your life, and you've come through many different lifetimes and continued with the same pattern, uh, and and let's say you decide, or okay, there's this one pattern in my life, I really, really, really have to heal it because it just keeps ruining things, it's ruining my relationships, or whatever it is that it's ruining. Working with past lives, you will see the past lifetimes of yours that have also carried that pattern, and every lifetime is a new lifetime to heal it. So being able to go back with that part of yourself or parts of yourself, um, is really, really important to healing patterns. So that's really what past lives are about. Sometimes people can get stuck in past lives and, oh, well, that happened because of a past life. We don't want to blame past lives either, because they're not creating your current reality either. They are an influence that has that pattern, but they're not currently, doing that to you. So if you see a past life, it can help you to heal relationships as well. So if you see a past life with your mother or your husband or your wife or whoever you're having a difficult time with, it's a great way to heal that relationship, but we don't want to blame it and go, okay, that past life happened, therefore this is just how this is. Nothing is just how this is. If we take personal responsibility, we can heal that particular thing and use the past lifetime to then, heal it in a deeper way and hopefully come out, but then do the work that we need to do on the surface in our current life as well. So that's what past lives are for. Future self or future selves. When I talk about future selves, I'm not really talking about, beyond this lifetime. I'm literally talking about the future self that you're going to create 3 months from now, a year from now, 5 years from now. This is something that Raina brought to me and it didn't really occur to me that we would be working with future selves. But I've worked with a lot of my own future selves, and now I'm at an age where I've gotten to see how that work has played out. So what I'm doing in my life right now is something I worked with when I was about 32 years old. So this is giving my age away, but about 10 years ago, I started to really work with future selves with Raina, and it's I can attest to the power of it and also that it works. So future selves, you can work with them and kind of weed out the futures that you don't want to create. It's also important to look at the future self that you might create that would be negative and ask yourself, why would I create that future self and what can I heal in myself now? So that is a very important part of reality creation, but it requires us to take action right now. Okay, what about guides and spiritual gifts? So guides, inner spirit teachers like Raina, higher self, clairvoyance and intuitive development, becoming a healer, mediumship and channeling, and then all spiritual gifts are a side effect of personal healing development and soul's purpose. And that's really the gist of it. All these things become important later. If you have already, started to take classes on these things, that's fine. But what I found in my own classes when I teach these things is, the people who have done the healing program, or have worked on themselves with those 7 steps are much more able to access these things, and they don't get as frustrated because they're able to go into maybe why they're not accessing the inner spirit teacher. They'll work with it with themselves, is my point. So can you develop these things without going through your healing process? You can, limitedly. You can work with these things and learn the skill. So just like anything else, these spiritual gifts are also skills, and some of them may be more natural for you, and so you're able to do them, but they will become limited at a certain point, and it will limit your ability to create in your life. It will also limit your ability to help another person. You will only be able to go so far, and that will be it. And that's for me teaching for 13 years and watching it. I've done it all kinds of ways. So I have taught class without someone going through their consciousness development. And there's a lot more kind of issues that come up in class, or they just get frustrated and feel like, okay, well, I don't really know what this is for. And it's because they needed to go through that healing. So these things are important later on in your growth, and they're important tool to sort of assisting you with your growth, but the main component needs to be that healing and consciousness development. So this is a little surprise I put together for you. So those of you that have not ever seen channeling, this is a clip taken directly from the program that Raina and I teach. I took this clip so that you could see, what channeling is if you have not seen it before. And also, this is how I teach. And this is the being, my own guide, my own inner spirit teacher that came to me on my path and continues to teach through me.
As you move forward into the rest of this program and possibly others, you will find that we work with the higher self consistently. They become your guide, the one that has the wisdom when you are confused, the one that has the wisdom when you need more information or advice on how to go about healing something. This is because the higher self holds the many parts of you, the many parts of your life, lives before and even lives you have not yet lived. So moving forward, we will go into the child work first, working with the inner child, and the higher self will be there each step of the way. And with that, love is sent without constitution to physical angels. Good day and good night.
So that is Raina. That is how I teach. So the program we put together is the Sage Spiritual Foundation course. Module 1 is the ego and the higher self. So learn exactly what the ego is and how your ego personally functions with you, how to tell the difference between your ego and your higher self, create an everyday intimate working relationship to your higher self. Learn what the higher self really is and why it is your most valuable teacher. This one class alone is worth so much. So this is the first module in our program, and again, I have been teaching this in trance with Raina for over 13 years, and even just this class will help you tremendously. So it's important to learn those things and to be able to create an everyday intimate working relationship with your higher self, so that you can get guided. That's really what that's for. So I know the difference between Raina coming to me and the difference between my higher self coming to me, and also, spirits and things like that. My higher self is by far the most important spirit connection that I have. And I also know when my ego comes in, it talks kind of negatively. That's one of the ways to know. But my higher self connection is what tells me to, grab that pair of socks out of my son's drawer before I go pick him up. And I don't know why, and his socks are all wet. That's really where our intuition comes from. It comes from the higher self. So that connection is really important. And to know if your ego is muddying it up or not. Let's go into module 2, inner child and adolescent. The vital importance of your inner child in your ability to create. Your inner child is your most important creative part of self. So when they are not happy, you're not going to be happy, and you'll bump up against a bunch of things that don't allow you to create what you want to create. How and why inner child healing is necessary. I just talked about that a little bit. And the adolescent's role in your adult reactions and behavior, that's a huge one. Again, we have all seen adults whose behavior is ridiculous. They are in their adolescent, is what's happening. And you need to be able to work with your adolescent in order to truly be an adult and to be a spiritual adult. Specific meditations with both inner child and adolescent. And I will say there's specific meditations with every single module in this program. And those meditations will guide you to very specific things that you'll do with your inner child and your adolescent. So that's the direction part. Module 3, shadow work, an imperative part of metaphysics, why shadow work grounds your healing. Work with the shadow as the being as it is and learn its purpose. Deep meditations that guide you into unconscious fears and patterns that only the shadow holds. There are some things that only the shadow holds. So, and it's usually kind of the scary things or the things that we don't want to see. That's very true. But they also hold the wonderful things about ourselves that we're afraid of as well. And so that's why I said earlier, working with your shadow blends the spirit world and the physical world for you. So that's how important that is. It is just as important to see what we are afraid of in the light as it is to see what we are afraid of in the dark. Also, to heal and accept yourself as a balanced part of the divine. Uh, that was a big one for me. There's a big part of me that did not really believe that I was part of the divine. It was something that was separate from me. And as long as I had that belief system, and it was hidden, it was a very unconscious belief that I had, and it was my shadow that was able to give it to me. Once I understood that I am part of the divine, and that's why, my gifts and things were coming up, everything changed. Everything changed. We are not separate from the divine. Okay, module 4, soul and spirit. Work with your soul's language and primal creation. So the soul does not speak in words. We're the ones that make up the words. So the soul speaks to you in a very primal language. Once you start to learn that primal language, you can create with that primal language. And you turn it into words when you need to, but so much of our creative process is simply not conscious, and also not, we don't need words. We don't need to talk to ourselves about what we need to do. We just need to do it. So that's kind of what working with the soul and spirit helps you to do. Working with the language and the primal creation helps you to just start to do it and not need to talk about it, tell everyone about it, talk to yourself about it, think about it. uh, when I feel this creative soul language, I can just go into it and let it happen rather than trying to make it happen. Learn how to work with your spirits separate of your soul and how they work together. Yes. So, and the reason it's written as spirits is because that is the truth. We have one soul, we have many spirits. So learning how to work with them, heal them, is very important to your soul's ability to continue to create and not be blocked. So that's kind of that blocked heart feeling that you can get when you want something really bad, you really want to create it, and you just feel it. Oh, I just can't do it. I just can't. Working with the spirits within your soul are really the ones that are sort of using that language, and they're afraid. So working with them together is what helps you to then drive your creative process easily. Okay, meditations that present spirits within the soul seeking healing. Yeah. Reina brings through meditations that help you specifically work with these spirits so that you're working with the ones that need healing and are ready for healing. We can't go in and heal something if it's not ready. So you can't just go in to a meditation and say, okay, all of you come up, let's just heal all this right now. It's not going to happen. So you can say that, but it won't happen. So again, the direction of the spirit teacher is really important, and she helps you to very, very elegantly and beautifully, like a baby, uproot those spirits out of the soul and work with them one by one. Learn why many people stop their path when soul begins healing. A lot of people stop their path when their soul begins healing. And I will tell you why right now. It's the thing that makes you feel like you might be crazy. So when I started channeling in my sleep, I was beside myself. My soul was actually opening up, and these spirits were coming through me to try to heal me, is what was happening. They needed out, they needed help. And that was how they were doing it. And I think a lot of people are misdiagnosed with mental illnesses that really are spiritual people. In every other country, pretty much, in our world, and especially in third world countries, when someone has an episode like that or a psychotic break, they're taken to the local shaman because they know that that's what's happening. Oh, great, this person's spirits are coming up and they need healing now. They're taken to the local shaman because they know that this person has spiritual gifts. I wish to, God, Goddess, every day that someone could have told me that when that was happening. I really was very close to going and getting medicine or something, but something inside of me knew that that just wasn't what was happening. I also have had the pleasure of having many psychotherapists take class with me, and I have a few friends that are really wonderful psychotherapists. They're very spiritual people, but they choose to still work in that arena because they pull out those spiritual people that are not really mentally ill. And Raina talks a lot about, the difference between someone truly being mentally ill. And what I will say about that is that happens because the person, they've just gone too far, they've had too much trauma, or there's something, medically in their brain that kind of makes that a permanent state. So anyway, I don't want to scare anyone, but learn why a lot of people stop their path. Hearing spirit does not mean that you are crazy. It just doesn't. It means that you are opening, and working with the soul and spirit becomes necessary at that point. Okay, module 5, past lives. So visit past lives of yours that pertain to your current time reality. When and why past lives play a role in your healing. Heal fragments causing pain and disruption in your progress. Work with current relationships that have past life origins. There's a lot of things that I can say about this. I want to talk about healing fragments causing pain and disruption in your progress. Through many of the clients that I've worked with over 16 years, actually, a lot of times suicidal feelings come from past life fragments. So uh, the more times a person does that, takes their life, it's going to come up again in their next lifetime. And so healing past lifetimes can be really, really beneficial to something like that as well. If you are someone who has a tendency towards depression or suicidal thoughts, it just means something needs to end, and healing a past life fragment can be the reason. I also had a business partnership about 8-9 years ago that was really bad, and I needed to go into my past lives, and my higher self is what alerted me that needed to happen. This person just, our relationship was awful, and I needed to not do this. I had started a school with somebody, and now, like, I have actually so much love for him. He really was a teacher to me at that time, and I didn't realize it. But we had karma together from a past lifetime, and that's why we created this business together. And without writing that karma with him and working through my own past life stuff, which I never shared with him at all, I never shared it with him. I just did it within myself. What ended up happening is our business broke apart, which is what I wanted. And I was able to heal this huge part of myself that had to do with me bringing Reina to the world and really continuing to teach all of this in a really profound way. And it was past lives that I needed to go into to work with that. So that's how powerful past lifetimes can be. Work with current relationships that have past life origins. That was a perfect example of what that was. And then visit past lives of yours that pertain to your current time reality. And that really has to do with patterns. So if you have a pattern of shutting yourself off to love, for instance, if you're able to visit with some of your past lives that can show you why you're cutting that off, you can heal it. And so that's really as easy as that is. And it can be a little bit fun to work with past lives. I remember some of my first past lifetimes I ever saw. I saw myself as an Egyptian princess or something. That was kind of neat. And what followed wasn't so neat. I saw myself get mummified, but it was important. They would just come, and I saw a lot of different past lifetimes as male, as female. And I just kind of let them run through until I knew how to work with them. Okay, module 6, future self, one of my favorite parts of self to work with. Consciously work with future self realities you have created, and I want you to know that you have created them. So it can be unnerving to see a future reality that you don't like, or I would never create that. Well, people that end up in, end up older and in situations they don't want to be in, they didn't, they don't feel that way either. We have to take responsibility for what we have created. So if you're eating something you have no business eating, that's a simple, simple one, but you need to take responsibility for it. So, and change your lifestyle now. And that's kind of what this is about. So learn how to continually change future outcomes by allowing them to help you. So when Raina guides you through the future self uh, meditations, you will be doing that. You will actually be taken to certain futures, and and remember, your future self knows, they've already been through this webinar, they've already been through some training. They're expecting you, and they're able to actually tell you what happened in their life that led to their future. And I know this is a huge concept too, and if you've never heard of this concept, um, you know, don't worry, you just got to listen to what I'm saying. But we create many different future probabilities within us, and that's how we can go and visit them in meditation. So the higher self will guide you to the best possible futures. They really will. You're going to see at least one that you wouldn't want to create, but the higher self is going to help you to weed out. Who knows how many we have? We probably have hundreds or hundreds of thousands of probable futures. The higher self is just going to take you to the ones that you are creating. So what you do in your daily life creates your future, and any change that we make begins to change that future. So right now, if you've never worked with meditation before, you've never worked with your future self, if you were to do that, you will immediately be changing your future probabilities. Okay, work with any negative futures to weed them and create what your soul truly desires. I've already kind of talked about that. Your higher self will help you to do that, but that's the point of it, the point of future self. Module 7, I won't give away too much here. This is the culminating module in the whole entire program. What I will tell you is that it's a higher self working that is a culmination of all the work you've done in this program, and it's a higher self co-creation. This module happened because of a dream that I had, and it was an incredible experience, and Raina thought it would be wonderful to have this be the culminating experience for everyone that takes this program. So that's all I will say about it. But there are 7 modules in this program that pertain to the 7 steps we need to heal ourselves and really create what we want. So let's take a look at some past students. I only put 2 of them up here because I do have a testimonial page with videos and things like that if you do want to go and read some of them or watch some of the videos. So this is Ruda, and again, I only took part of her testimonial. My journey with Raina began in 2012 when I signed up for the Sage Spiritual Foundation program and Clairvoyant Intuitive program. At that time, I did them together. It was the deepest experience of spiritual and personal growth I have had. She also had a 3-month-old baby at that time. So she was, leaving. She did this in person with me and Raina. And she was there every week, and I had to hand it to her. She had a 3-month-old baby and was doing this anyway. So if any of you have children or even babies, I've had a lot of women come to class with babies, and it really just helps them be better mothers. I would highly recommend anyone who is not only curious but serious about the spiritual world to take one of Raina and Lori's classes. You will learn more than you thought you were capable of. So she now, she owns a metaphysical bookstore in Sarasota, Florida. That is what came out of her learning with us, which is so wonderful. She actually just told me this. recently, I didn't know that she had bought a metaphysical bookstore. So she absolutely is implementing in her life her teaching, and she's going to be able to live it. And myself owning a metaphysical bookstore, you're working with a lot of different personalities and a lot of psychic people, and not all of them have done this healing either. I try to avoid that in my own store, but she's, buying a store that has existing employees. So she's going to be able to really work with her people a lot better because she knows when ego is present and when it's not. Okay, this is Monique Belfonte, she's wife, mom of three, management consulting executive. I put her up here because she also had a 3-month-old baby when she started class. She ended up having all three of her children during taking classes with myself and Raina. And I actually got to be present at the very last birth. She asked if I could come and channel Raina at her birth, and it was a beautiful, beautiful experience. But I'm putting her up because she did not change her career. She changed her life, and she was able to be in her career in a much more powerful way for herself, but she still works in the corporate world and implements this. So I began showing up in a much more integrated and empathic, focused, and connected way. After years of self-work, I've incorporated my life purpose and passion with my professional work by providing leadership and well-being coaching to executives and teams. I also share readings and healings with individuals and continue to learn through workshops and involvement in my community. I highly encourage others to pursue this path of self-healing and spiritual enlightenment through Raina teachings to deepen their self-actualization journey and unlimited multi-dimensional life. Her testimonial was also really long, so I just took a part of it. But yeah, she's a really, really powerful person. She admitted to me that she was afraid of us initially too. She took her a long time to email me or to even take class because she wasn't sure about all the spiritual stuff. She thought that maybe it was weird and all of that, but she was drawn to it. So she also has taken teams at her corporate job and led them through meditation. So that's how it changed her life. It changed her. She's able to be herself at work and actually have it benefit not only her own career, but the company itself. So you do not have to want to do this for a living and be a channeler, a clairvoyant, or any of that to heal yourself and go through the consciousness development. And Monique is a beautiful example of someone who is continuing and loves her current position. Okay, so which would you rather do? Figure it out yourself and meditate for years. She's very frustrated over there. Or receive guidance and teaching from a spiritual teacher. Much easier. And so that's why I chose these two pictures. And I've met the people on the left-hand side of the screen, and they kind of, at a certain point, don't believe that they're going to progress any further. Then they take class, and guess what? Oh my goodness, I've never meditated like this before. Oh my goodness, I've never had dreams like this before. Getting a spiritual teacher, working with a spiritual teacher is necessary and just will really fast track your progress and help you to get what you want faster, is what I will say. It's not overnight, and I don't want to, I don't want you to think it's going to happen overnight, but it will happen much faster. So even in a few months, everything begins to change. So this is the Sage Spiritual Foundation course. So it's an in-depth consciousness development program based on my own healing process, Lori's own healing process with Raina and hundreds of other past students. And that's really key. So I didn't just decide I was going to do this and throw it up online. I've taught this for 13 years. And I've watched people's lives change over and over again. And you can go see some of the testimonials on my website if you want to. It was a beautiful experience to do this in person, and I really wanted to make it available online. So I took the time to create the program online with beautiful videos that I hope that you like. Um, so it's also a self-paced course that downloads in 7 weeks time. So this is the benefit of doing it online. In person, this class was close to a year long. And I did it once a month. Sometimes I did it weekly, but we had to all figure out a time to get together to do this. I was a little shocked when I did this whole course online to find out that it was 7 modules. Like, what was I doing all those years doing it in person? Um, so it will download, you'll get 1 module per week. In 7 weeks, the whole program is downloaded, and then you're able to do it at your own pace, really. So sometimes, you'll get stuck on a module and you'll feel like, oh well, my inner child healing just isn't done. None of it is ever going to be fully done, I will say that, but you can take your time to work with the inner child for a couple of months if that's what you feel like doing, where maybe some of the other modules you make it through a little bit faster. You also have lifetime access to the course. I don't give it to you for a certain amount of time and then take it away. This is a lifetime process. And like I said, I still go through these meditations myself. I still work with Raina on these things as they come up. So being able to have access to it, 5 years from now, if you need to work with it, you can. And hopefully you'll continue working with it. The other benefit to having lifetime access to the course is you also, if I update it, which I will, there's things that Raina may want to add to the course, you will have access to that too at no extra charge. So you pay, the one-time payment or the 6-month payments that I'll talk about in a little bit, and you have access to this course indefinitely along with all of the updates. So we also have a bi-monthly 1.5-hour group Q&A coaching session with myself and Raina. That is done right inside of our paid Facebook group. So it's the Sage Alchemist Facebook group. If you're in the free Facebook group, that's not where I do that. So I do it in the paid Facebook group. And the videos are archived there. So if you miss a video, if you miss a Q&A session, you can go back and listen to it. And it just makes it easier for everyone to be able to participate in that. So I do them bi-monthly. It's every other Thursday at 12 p.m. is how I do that. And the first part of the Q&A will be me, and the second part will be Raina. And there's sometimes, she answers questions, but sometimes she will just guide you all through impromptu meditation or work with you on something, which is really a nice, wonderful thing to be able to do. So lifetime membership to the Sage Alchemist Facebook group for learning, helping, and global community of healers. When I created that group, my feeling about it, so there are people in that group that took class with me in person, that took class with me 10, 12 years ago. So it's not just something that you join while you're initially learning and then you stop. Our idea with that was to have a working global community of healers. So not only am I in there to help you, but there are people in there that, like Monique and Ruta, they are actually both in that Facebook group that can also help you. So, do the Q&As, but you can pop up a question, oh, I'm having, kind of a weird thing happen with I'm just in the ego and the higher self, what's going on? Someone will respond to you and help you with it, aside from me. And that's another beautiful way of doing that. Sometimes I will go in there and go into trance, and Raina will just decide to work magic with everybody, work global healing if there's something going on in the world. So it is a lifetime membership. Once you're part of that group, you will always be part of that group. And then we have a bonus that I'm only offering to people that are on this webinar. So whether you're watching this webinar right now live, or you're watching it, later, if I have a replay, a 30-minute private awakening session with Raina. So that will be like this through Zoom. And normally I only do 1 hour or 90-minute sessions with Raina. And a 1 hour session with Raina is $300. So I'm doing a free 30-minute private awakening session with you if you are on this webinar and you end up buying the program. So that is also a huge bonus to the program. So I look forward to that. And I also will say I will not always offer that. I'm offering that now. I was guided to offer that. So those of you that buy today will receive that. You can go over to the private sessions section of the Raina Teachings website and book your session. Okay, so this is the price of this life-changing course. It was originally a $3,000 course. It was actually $3,250 when done in person, and now it's $1,500. So an upfront one-time payment is $999. So that's a huge discount. So $501 discount from the 6-month payment. So if you pay in one full swoop today, it's $999. You have full access to the course, or 6 payments of $250. So I understand not everyone has a big chunk of money to put towards this. I know I didn't when I was taking classes. So I created a 6-month payment plan. It's $250 a month, and you'll do it over 6 months time. And you don't get the bigger discount. You'll pay the $1,500, but it is still well worth it. Well worth it. I also back this with a 14-day money back guarantee. Now, what that means is provided you are doing the work and in 14 days you decide you're not ready for it, I will give you your money back, no questions asked. Day 15, I will not give you your money back. This is a process. You will go through times where you feel frustrated with the process of healing. Everyone does. So I kind of put up this 14-day money back guarantee to help you really decide. But after 14 days, you've already downloaded, the first 2 modules of the program. So I don't want to do 30 days and then you've downloaded most of the program. So, but I will do it for the first 14 days. So if you're unsure and you want to try it for 14 days, go ahead and I will give you your money back, no questions asked. The payment and to sign up is this link. So that's where the payment is on the website. And I'm going to keep this up for a little while, and then I'll just talk a little bit more just about Raina too, and what it's like to channel, and then we'll end. We'll go ahead and end. But again, I never thought that I would be a channel. That was kind of the strangest concept to me ever. And the first time Raina came through me was actually in class. I had other beings channel through me first, and I was a little scared of her. She felt powerful to me, and she felt she was going to heal me is what was happening. But channeling was definitely a wonderful, wonderful, discovery in my process. And what I can honestly say is I wouldn't have become a channel if I didn't do my healing process. I think I would have, I think I probably would have still been a clairvoyant and possibly a healer, but I wouldn't have been able to bring through Raina consistently and have her teach through me the way that she does. So that was a wonderful thing about becoming a channel. And we all have our own gifts in life. So don't think, oh, well, I don't know if I have anything like that. You probably do. If you're interested in spirituality and you're here, something called you to it for a reason. In my career, I've had a lot of people come take class because they're meant to do this in some capacity. And then I've had a lot of people come to me that haven't. So Raina and I also do a lot of other just one-off workshops and things like that, both in person and online. But this by far is the most important program that we teach because of how healing it is. So it also can prepare you for some of the other workshops and things that we'll do. We are going to start traveling and channeling in different places, first around the United States and then possibly in other countries. So I'm really, really looking forward to doing that and also writing a book soon. So, anyway, thank you for coming on today. And if you're not sure right now, that's fine. You will get some follow up emails about it. And at some point, I'm sure I will see you in the program. All right. Much love, everybody.